Hello everyone, myself I'm Divya, working as Assistant Professor in Marri Laxman Reddy Institute of Technology and Management from the Department of Chemistry. So in today's session, I'm going to discuss ecosystem from the environmental sciences. So topics covered under ecosystem. In previous session, I have covered the definition, scope and importance of ecosystem with the structure of ecosystem. So in today's session, I'm going to cover about the function of ecosystem, which covers about the food chains, food webs and pyramids. Coming to the function of an ecosystem. Functioning of an ecosystem may be understood by the studying of the following terms. Those are like food chains, food webs, and food pyramids. So the first one under the function of ecosystem is the food chain. In an ecosystem, food chain is simply nothing but like one organism will be eaten by the other organism. So the chain continues for the survival. So in an ecosystem, first organism is eaten by the second one, in which turn the second one is eaten by the third one. So it goes on. This kind of feeding relation between the producers and consumers, we call it as food chain. So under food chain, one organism will be eaten by the second one and second one will be eaten by the third one. So the chain link or the relation between these organisms, we call it as a food chain, and especially between the producers and the consumers. A food chain always start with a plant life. So plant life here we call it as a producers. Plants are the things which they can prepare the food by themselves as a photosynthesis. They will be using the water and sunlight from the atmosphere and they will be preparing their food by themselves. So it is a producer. So plant is a producer and it ends with the animal. So food chain always starts with the plants and ends with the animal. At each and every level, nearly 80 to 90% of the potential energy gets lost as a heat. So we can see one example of a food chain. So as I said, it is starting with the plant life. So plant here, a grass, it is a producer which is eaten by a grasshopper. It is a primary consumer, and which is eaten by a bird. It is a secondary consumer, and this bird is eaten by a snake. It is a tertiary consumer, and snake is eaten by owl, and then this owl is a predator where it is not eaten but it goes to the decomposition by a decomposers. So our food chain starts with the producer, that is plants, and ends with the animal. So each and every level, nearly 80 to 90% of the energy gets lost as a heat. In nature, two general types of food chains are present. So food chains are classified into two types. One is grazing food chain, other one is detritus food chain. So the grazing food chain found in the grassland ecosystem and pond ecosystems. So we can see this grazing food chain in the grassland and the pond ecosystem. So grazing food chain starts with the green plants. Those are like primary producers, and goes to the decomposer food chain through the herbivores and carnivores. Through the herbivores or the carnivores. So we can see here, first is a grass, a producer, goat, consumer, and the man is also a secondary consumer. Detritus food chain, it is found in the grassland ecosystems and the forest ecosystem. So in this type, the chain starts with the dead organic matter. That is why we call it as detritus food chain. Whereas in grazing chain, it starts with the primary producer, that is plants, and ends to the decomposers, as we have seen here. So the food chain is starting from the plants, that is a producer, and it is ending to the animal, and that animal to the decomposers by some bacteria, algae, fungi. They will be decomposing these animals. Whereas the second type of food chain, it starts with the dead organic matter, plants and animals, and goes to the decomposer food chain through the herbivores and carnivores. So here it starts with the plants, ends with the decomposer, and here it starts with the dead organic matter, but it ends with the decomposer. So the next functioning of ecosystem is a food web. The interlocking pattern of various food chain, like food, uh, the food chain interlinking, we call it as food web. Food web is also a food chain, but it is of interlinking. In a food web, many food chains are interconnected. Many food chains are interconnected, where different types of organisms are connected at different trophic levels, so that there are number of opportunities of eating and being eaten by each trophic level. So the grass may be eaten by insects, rats, deers, etc. And these may be eaten by carnivores, that is fox, snake, tiger. Thus, there is an interlocking of various food chains are called as food web. So we understood what is a food chain. Food web is nothing but simply interconnection of all the food chains. We call it as food web. Like here, one organism will be eaten by many other, not only one. So we can see here image, green one, which will be representing as a producers, plants or algae, and the blue one in the second, it is a primary consumers. So the algae can be eaten by prawn or crab, and here also the water weed can be eaten by fly or slug. So the one food can be taken by many other organisms. It is a interlinking. And the third one, we can see it as a secondary consumers, where this will be eaten by the tertiary consumers. So the third type of functioning of ecosystem is ecological pyramid or food pyramid. So what is a pyramid? It is a graphical representation of a structure and functioning of trophic levels in ecosystem. So the representation in a graphical manner of the structure and the function of trophic levels of ecosystem, we call it as the ecological pyramid or food pyramid. So it starts from the producers at the bottom, and successive trophic levels forming the apex is known as ecological pyramid. So if you take the, for example, this pyramid, it starts with the producers at the bottom of the pyramid, and the apex or the predator should be like it will be in the top of the pyramid. So it starts with the producers, and the above it is a predators or the apex. So the representation in a graphical manner, we call it as the ecological pyramid. In food chain, starting from the producers to the consumers, there is a regular decrease in biomass and the number of organisms. So when we compare with the food chain starts with the producers and ends with the consumers, that is animals. So when we see the food chain, we can see the decrease in the biomass and the number of organisms also. So since energy is lost as heat in each and trophic level, so as we have discussed earlier, at each trophic level, nearly 80 to 90% of heat is lost, and it becomes progressively smaller near the top. That is why we have represented as this. So if you see the producers, it is of a large one, but coming to the above levels, as a biomass will be decreasing, and also the number of organisms in the food chain also will be decreasing. So the top level will be smaller. And the bottom level will be bigger. Types of ecological pyramids. So the ecological pyramids can be classified into three types. One is pyramid of numbers, second is pyramid of energy, third is pyramid of biomass. Pyramid of numbers. So, in this type of ecological pyramid, the number of organisms in each trophic level is considered as the level in the pyramid. So, each trophic level will be considering as the level of pyramid. So, the pyramid of numbers is usually upright except for some situations like the detritus food chain where many organisms feed on the one dead plant or animal. As the decomposers are many, it will be feeding on only one organism. So it is different from this food chain. Apart from the all other, the pyramid of numbers will be usually upright. So coming to the representation of the pyramid of numbers, we can see a bottom level will be producers, from where it is eaten by a primary consumers, secondary consumers, and tertiary consumers. As we know that when the trophic levels are going on, the biomass will be decreasing and also the number of organisms will be decreasing. So the above top one will be of small. Same thing we can see here. First is producers, herbivores, carnivores, and top carnivores. So this is the representation for the pyramid of numbers. Simply, it is the number of organisms at each trophic level will be considering as a level of pyramid. Coming to the second type of ecological pyramid, that is a pyramid of biomass. In this type particularly, ecological pyramid, each level takes into account the amount of biomass produced by each trophic level. The pyramid of biomass is also upright. It is also upright except for some conditions like in oceans where large number of zooplanktons depend on relatively smaller number of phytoplanktons. Except for this condition, the pyramid of biomass is also upright condition, or it will be giving us a upright trophic level. So we can see usually pyramid of biomass will be of starting with the producers, that is grasses or herbs, then the herbivores, deer or elephants, and then carnivores. So except one condition, as we have seen, that is in oceans where a large number of, it is a downright, it is upright, it is a downright, except these conditions in the ocean. So a large number of zooplanktons will be depending on the phytoplanktons. So simply the pyramid of biomass, we say that each trophic level takes into account the amount of biomass produced at each trophic level. So it usually be in the upright, that starts from the producers, herbivores, and carnivores. As I said, it is exceptional in one case, that is oceans, as zooplanktons are a large number. It depends on the phytoplanktons. So this representation is of pyramid of biomass in oceans. And finally, we have is the pyramid of energy under the ecological pyramid. Pyramid of energy is the only type of ecological pyramid which is always upright, as the energy flow in a food chain is always unidirectional. Also, with every increasing tropical level, some energy is lost into the environment. So as the other cases like pyramid of biomass and the pyramid of numbers, we have usually it is upright, but in some cases it is downright based on the other situations. But coming to the pyramid of energy, it is always in the upright condition. And during this condition, we can see that every increasing tropical level will have some energy. It will be lost into the environment. So we know that the pyramid starts from the producers, primary consumers, secondary consumers, and tertiary consumers. And we can see percentage wise. So producers will be of many. As we know, when the chain starts, the producers will be of in bigger number. So producers, and then primary consumers to the 10%, secondary consumers to the 1%, and tertiary consumers towards the 0.1%. So these are the classification under the ecological pyramids. That is a pyramid of biomass, pyramid of numbers, and pyramid of energy. And these are the references. Thank you.